fellow brothers and sisters all over the world, in the diaspora, in Africa. We are happy to meet you again. This is Ghana Unplugged, back to you again. Please don't forget to subscribe and like our videos and also share on YouTube. Last week, I told you I was gonna speak about the impact religion in general has brought on the African continent. And so today is the D Day. Um, Religion, by religion, we all know how Africa, we've always had our way of life, our culture. Mind you, first of all, let me define religion. There's a difference between religion and culture. You see, religion is a system of belief that has been established in a community. And culture, on the other hand, is the way of life of a group of people. So, as Africans, as blacks, we always had our culture. We always had our way of life. Our culture was made up of the way we eat, the way we dance, the way we talk, the way we dress, and the way we worship the Creator, the Almighty. You see, we got to know of this, of our culture, through our continuous practices and relations with the universe, with the environment, and everything in it. So it was out of these relations that we came up with our culture. So mind you, in any way, don't let anybody confuse you that the traditional practices of the people is a religion. No, it's never a religion. It's their culture, it's their way of life. You see, so now let's come to religion. Religion is a system of belief established in a community. Religion doesn't necessarily based on the social factors of the environment. It's not based on the natural phenomena of the environment. Religion solely got to do with the unseen. You see, the unseen. So that's why Christians and in Islam, they always contradict themselves when it comes to religion and spirituality. But then when you come to traditional practices, religion and there's total difference between religion. Religion doesn't even come in there. There's a very, you can't even differentiate between spirituality and then the traditional practices. The traditional practices is actually spirituality in its own self, because it helps you to know how to relate with the environment, to relate with the natural styles that God have created, to understand the environment, to understand the world. But religion on its own is self-holiness. It's self-holiness is trying to please, other people on earth. So now let's take a brief history, about religion. So now we've understood that traditional practices is a culture and never a religion. So with religion, we all know that the two main religions in Africa here currently is Islam and Christianity. So with Christianity began way back in the first century, first, second century in Egypt, Alexandria. Yes, according to historical antecedents, some says it's Mark. Mark, one of the disciples of so-called Jesus Christ, Yeshua Amashia. We're gonna talk about him later. He brought Christianity, that's Roman, to Egypt. Yeah, in the first and second century. So we all know that these Romans after conquering Greek ended up coming all the way through to Egypt to also have a share of whatever booty was left. Then in Alexandria, the Greeks have already invaded and turned the library there, the traditional history and culture, the University of Arts and Culture over there. They've then turned it into Alexandria Library, where they were researching, the Greeks were researching into the culture and the traditional practices of the people, and then transferring it into Greeks to practice there and to implement whatever they were getting from then Egypt. And so when these Romans were able to conquer the Greeks, they ended up coming all the way to Egypt. And that's when they came along with Christianity. So well, this Christianity, I mean, after they've been in Egypt, in Alexandria for a while. We all know Izana from the Aksum Empire. As time progresses, somewhere in the 4th century, also, that is in Ethiopia, he also, I mean, forced the people. He was influenced, he was deceived by them Frumentius, who happens to be his teacher when he was growing up. He was deceived by him to accept Christianity as a practice of the people, which he agreed to. And then we all know how it led to the collapse of the Aksum Empire. So, in totality, um, Christianity later on spread that somewhere the 7th century. It started spreading sub-Saharan, but then they couldn't spread so downwards. They couldn't because the people already believed in the traditional practices and they were so in depth with. But later on in the 19th century, that's when these Portuguese got a chance to spread it to the sub-Saharan part of Africa. But places where Islam had then already taken root, I mean, never accepted Christianity. So now let's look at the impact of religion in general. We know Islam. For Islam came, I mean, after AD 632, after the death of Prophet Muhammad, um, where they felt that they needed a place to hide and all of that, so they ended up, I mean, coming interior to the northern part of Africa, and that's where, I mean, the Arabs came to and started practicing Islam. So, um, we all know religion in general has been a total destruction of black people, of black race, of Africans. I mean, religion was the genesis for slave trade. I'm gonna tell you, religion was the genesis of slave trade. Religion was the genesis of disrespect for our culture and traditions as black race. Religion led to inhuman practices, abuses, and all of that, it led to racism. Let me tell you why. Because when these Romans, when these Arabs came, they never had respect for the traditional practices of the people. All they were thinking about was to conquer a kingdom, to conquer and try and tame a continent. So when they came, they disregarded the actual practices of the people. And so now looking at the impact of religion, religion on the African continent has never benefited us, no, because in the first place we had our way of life. Them coming in and trying to force us to accept a different way of life meant that, yes, ideally there is competition. And these religious missionaries that came had a purpose in mind. Their purpose was to take over the continent. They came with no respect, and their reason was that traditional practices couldn't write down whatever it was about, and so they couldn't relate well with God, the supreme being, which is entirely not true. Because, like I've always said, in Axum, this was written. It was the traditional practices, traditional writings of the people. Each were in the kingdoms, in the empires that existed in Africa, they had their own way of life. They had their culture. Mind you, I always say this Ankh had already been in existence before religion came. This one, Jinyame, it's already existed. You see, this thing I'm wearing, we've always worn it before the coming of, I mean, Europeans, before the coming of the Romans, the Arabs, Islam, Christianity. You see, and these religious groups, when they came, their main motive was to take over. They came about slavery. They brought slavery because of their greediness and their desire to be superior to we the blacks. They ended up practicing slave trade. I mean, it led to colonization. They trying to tame an entire continent, entire group of people who had their way of life completely different from them. You see, so We all know of the Crusaders, where there were wars all over the world, all over the places, in the quest for religion advancement, in the quest to force religion on the people. We know of the Crusaders. We know in history so many wars have existed, both between Islam, Christianity, and when they both came, they have to fight the traditional practices of the people to be able to get access and control over the continent. And so it hurts. It really hurts. I mean, moving on to contemporary issues, religion is no new to controversy, both Islam and tradition. We all know of these so-called Boko Haram, Islamic State, Al Qaeda, who are killing, destroying properties, destroying lives, tormenting the life of people in the name of God, in the name of trying to spread the message of God. This is crazy. This is crazy. You see, this is complete madness. It's complete madness. Why should you kill some? Then why don't you allow the people to freely practice their traditional practice, but rather you came with Islamic religion and tried to torment the people, to force the people to accept Islamic as their way of life. Until now, you want to continue killing people, destroying the progress that we have made in Africa. Mind you, if you go to Europe, Asia, the way Islam is tormenting people in Africa is not equally same over there. It's only once in a while that you hear that some terrorists have stood up and have started shooting and have killed one person or so. But go to Mali, go to Ethiopia, go to northern part of Nigeria, go to Somalia. All these places, all these places have become a standstill. No progress. People are dying. People are starving because Islamic religion. I'm first of all talking of Islam. When I finish, I'm gonna go into Christianity. Islamic religion have made it, I mean, their core reason to destroy every progress that the people are making. Not just there, all over the continent of Africa. And then Middle East. We all know that Middle East is already a part of Africa. It's a part of Africa. Just that, I mean, these people wanted us to look idiots. And I mean, let's we blacks know we couldn't do anything for ourselves. That's why they ended up separating. Oh, our religion has never benefited us. I mean, before the Council of Nicaea, religion has already taken place. You see, one thing I always say that before you can tame a person, before you can control a person, you have to control the mind. So all said and done, like I was saying, Islam has taken over the continent of Africa and trying to disrupt the progress that we've made so far. All over Africa, with the exception of some few places, there's always terrorist attack here and there. I mean, and Middle East happens to be a part of Africa. I mean, just that they want us to look foolish. That's why after discovering oil there and knowing the potential resources available, they figured a way to, I mean, take it out of Africa. But look at Europe, America, Asia. Hardly do you hear of these jihadist attacks and all of that. You see, so these things happening, these are European structures, European theories that has been put in place to control our mind, to disrupt the progress that we have made so far as Africans and as black people. You see, Christianity, on the other hand, has done worse. It has done worse. Come to Africa here. Their main agenda is to control the resources that are available to us, both human, land, labor, capital, and the rest of the natural resources existing here. So they have created a system, because if you study European system, American system, and you study the world system and that of Africa, religion is at the helm of it. Religion, Christian, Islam, is at the helm of it. It's at the top of it. So you look at all these great people. I wouldn't call them great. You look at all these so far presidents, leaders of the world. It's either they are affiliated to Islam or Christianity. So the main agenda of religion is to tame the minds of the people. Look at in Africa. religion controls education, it controls social life, it controls religious life. I mean, it's religion on its own. It controls everything, political, economics, it controls everything. Let's take it from political point of view. Like I said, all these leaders, in one way or the other, are connected to these religions. And their main agenda is to control our minds, to influence us, to let us look foolish, like we nobody unless we accept a God. I mean, a God that we can't even relate with. So, in Africa here, looking at our economy, churches run so many schools. They have so many businesses, so many schools, so many other organizations. And the purpose is to make profit. It's to make profit. You look at the schools in Africa here, you look at the traditional schools, especially in Ghana, you look at Legon, you look at Kwame Nkrumah University, you look at Cape Coast University, their tuition fee is less compared to these churches that have put up schools. Pentecost, Roman Catholic, Methodist, their schools are charging huge amount of school fees in the name of saying that they are private institutions. So you see, the main purpose of the church as a religion and Islam as a religion, as we all know, is to make life better. But here is the case: schools, hospitals belonging to these churches continues to charge higher fees. How are you then helping the ordinary people? How are you helping the poor? How are you helping the needy? And you see, the whole thing is that all these religious organizations, Islam, Christianity, have had all their headquarters in Europe, Asia, America, and other parts of the world. And at the end of the day, any money that they make here, they take there. You see, so aside its purpose to control the minds and the resources of the people, it also takes away from the individuals. It's crazy. So it's hard time. You got to wake up. Don't let anybody tell you who God is. Don't let any. We know God from the day we are born. We know who He is. We know nature. We understand nature. It's our culture, it's our tradition that we live by. So please, don't let anybody brainwash you. The Bible itself, we are going to take a critical look at the Bible sometime. I mean, as we continue on the studies. You see, this Bible is our culture, our history that, I mean, came in the form of the Torah. They say we never wrote our history, but we've always written our history and our culture. And they got access to it. The Greeks got access to it, and these Romans, led by Constantinople, got access to it, and they turned it into theirs. I mean, just to control our minds. They turn it into the Bible and into the Quran just to let us look foolish that we can't write our history and our culture. Meanwhile, we have always written our history and our culture. And out of it came the Bible and the Quran. So it's time we wake up. Don't let anybody. I know great people, great minds that have been tamed, that have been destroyed by religion because they observe some strict rules that conflicts with the normal life, I mean, as a human being. And so they end up, I mean, forgoing their natural inborn talents and ends up following religion. This is bad. It's time we wake up. We got to wake up from our slumber before things get late. Islam, Christianity never did us no good. It has continuously harmed us, taken away from us. Talk of these missionaries, they were mission. Understand it, it's a mission. Like military is going on a mission. They came on a mission purposely to influence the minds and then the brain of the people to accept something that was completely different from theirs. They wanted us to deviate from the progress that we were making as black people, as African continent. And that's why they brought this religion, missionary, and then came after they've been able to influence the people. That's when they started taking our resources, taking slaves, our people as slaves elsewhere. That came with colonization. They took over the land and controlled the mind of people, tortured the minds of people, destroyed life, destroyed people. Which God will allow his people to be destroyed? How? Please wake up. Wake up. Don't let religion destroy you. Don't give your hard-earned money to a pastor or to an imam or whosoever to squander it, to spend it for you. It doesn't make sense. Rather, go on the street and give to the beggars. Go on the street, the needy, the orphanage, the homeless. Those are the ones that needs help. Please, let's wake up. Don't allow your mind to be controlled by the Bible and the Quran. These are, life of our people. These are the lies of our people, together with some lies that has been put together to tame our minds. Jesus Christ is never for us. Jesus Christ is for them. They brought him as a symbol to manipulate us, to represent their freedom. When they saw the light, when they came into contact with Africa, they needed a symbol to represent their freedom, to represent their newfound light. And that's when the issue of Jesus Christ came in. Let's go with our traditional cultural practices, because in it that we will find the freedom and the peace of mind and the unity that we desire. That's where we can find it. That's where we can find ourselves. That's where our roots belong. Emancipate ourselves, emancipate our minds, renew our minds, and accept the fact that our way of life is the traditional culture practices of the people. That is where we can find our distinct identity as a people and unite and build the new found Africa that we are working towards. I love you all. Stay tuned. It's Ghana Unplugged. Don't forget to like and share our videos. Bye for now.